Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight for Weather Extra. I'm meteorologist Jillian Grace. From significant snowfall to numerous tornadoes and even an historic volcano erupting, it was a wild week of weather across the nation. We get Weather Extra started tonight with one of this week's top weather stories, the devastating and deadly tornado outbreak across the South.
A late-season tornado outbreak took place across the South as November came to an end. Numerous tornadoes tore through parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia this past Tuesday afternoon into Wednesday morning. The National Weather Service received reports of nearly 40 twisters as a strong cold front raced through. Several were large and destructive tornadoes, which prompted particularly dangerous situation tornado warnings. Those warnings are only issued when there is an enhanced risk of very severe and life-threatening weather. According to emergency officials in Montgomery County, Alabama, at least 2 people were killed early Wednesday morning. Multiple people were also injured during the storm. And as you could see, tornadoes toppled trees and power lines, and several caused significant structural damage to homes and buildings. Walls were blown out, leaving behind piles of wood, concrete, and debris. The storms also unloaded torrential rain, with some places recording more than 5 inches, with several flash flood warnings issued.
Although our calendar says fall, many across the northern and western parts of the nation have been dealing with old man winter throughout November and now into December. And while severe weather was ripping through the south, a significant snowstorm was moving through the north and west. Take a look.
Winter remained alive and well last week as December arrived. Another disturbance moved through the Pacific Northwest to Upper Rockies and Upper Plains late last week and into the weekend. Over 48 hours, a foot to 18 inches of snow piled up through the Cascades. Parts of Washington and Idaho accumulated 4 to 8 inches, causing a mess on those roadways. As the storm system moved east, an additional half-inch of snow fell across Nevada and Montana, with some seeing more than a foot in parts of Wyoming and Utah. But all this early season snow has made for a great start to the snowpack west of the Continental Divide. Most mountains have seen between 100% and 300% of their average snow to date.
And the past week was mostly dry for Central Texas, but we've had some much-needed rainfall in Central Texas throughout the month of November. Chief Meteorologist Brady Taylor is here to give us an update on our current drought monitor and our lake levels. Brady.
Yeah, Jillian, we've had some good rain throughout the month of November, and it has helped dramatically the drought monitor across Central Texas. Take you back to Thanksgiving Day. Drought monitor had extreme drought covering a large portion of Central Texas, but you had the rain around Thanksgiving Day and to end out the month, and we've seen a drastic improvement. Now only extreme drought across parts of Coryell and Hamilton County, and look across Northern Hill and Coryell County. We're out of even the abnormally dry, meaning no drought concerns across Northern Hill and Coryell County. It's been a long time since we'll be able to say that. And then you look at the lake levels. Now, it depends on your scope of perspective. The green numbers here is how much the lake levels have changed in the last month, and all of them have come up, and that's the first month in a while. Even minor improvements. Lake Whitney, the best, up 8.5 inches, but Lake Waco and Lake Belton up 2 to 3 inches. Now, these orange numbers you see here are how much below normal the lake levels are. And we're still talking anywhere from 7 to nearly 13 feet below normal. And again, it's all due to kind of the perspective of how you look at stuff. This is the last month of the levels at Lake Waco. Even with some of the lighter rain early in the month, a steady drop. But then the big rains as we got closer to Thanksgiving and a nice jump. But when you broaden out the perspective and look over the entire year, you can see that steady drop that we've seen. There's the blip coming up. So yes, we've seen improvements, but we're still a long ways away from where we need to be. So we still need a lot more rain in Central Texas.
Thank you, Brady. Residents on Hawaii's Big Island are on high alert after a massive volcano erupted exactly 1 week ago following a series of earthquakes. Stephanie Loom is in Honolulu with more.
The world's largest active volcano lit up the night sky over Hawaii's Big Island, erupting for the first time in 38 years. Thermal imaging caught the moment Mauna Loa began spewing lava, creating an ash cloud so large it was seen from space. Scientists say magma had been building underground for nearly 2 years.
We knew it was coming. We just didn't know that it was going to be in the middle of the night after Thanksgiving weekend.
Mauna Loa last erupted in 1984. Lava came within 4 miles of the city of Hilo.
we're way overdue. We were way overdue for a Mauna Loa eruption.
The scientist in charge at the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory says there's no telling what may come next.
We don't want to try and second guess the volcano. We have to let it actually show us what it's going to do, and then we inform people of what is happening ASAP.
In 2018, Mauna Loa's neighbor Kilauea erupted and destroyed hundreds of homes.
And that happened in the middle of a subdivision. And that's where people were getting infected right at the moment when it erupted. This is in a remote area where we can still prepare the people to evacuate at any given notice.
Scientists say it could take weeks or months for the lava to reach residents if the volcano continues to erupt, and local officials are urging people to stay calm and have a plan in place in case of an emergency. Stephanie Lum, CBS News, Honolulu.
And News 10's Rissa Shaw talked with the volcano expert at Baylor University about what makes this event so captivating.
Remember the game Hot Lava you'd play as a kid where you pretend the ground is lava? Well, for Dr. Kenny Beefus, that game is real life. The ground is lava, and he's standing on it.
The plan for people is rarely to become a volcanologist, and it certainly wasn't my plan either.
Plan or not, with degrees from TCU, UT, and Stanford, this Baylor professor's knowledge of volcanoes has become rock solid over the last 20 years. And when one of the volcanoes that helped him get there erupted Monday, it was a significant event.
It's normal, but it's also kind of spectacular and something that we all have been trained on. And so to see the thing you've been trained on erupt is special.
What makes Mauna Loa special?
So Mauna Loa is special because it is the volcano of Hawaii. It's the big one. Everyone cares about Hawaii. Everyone cares about Mauna Loa. And to see it erupt now for the first time since the early 80s, it's a big deal.
A big deal, but a basic eruption from a scientific standpoint.
It's not a world changer from a research perspective or changing how we think about how the world works. It's a normal basaltic effusive eruption. And so what that means is that there's a certain composition to the lava, a certain temperature of the lava that's totally expected, totally appropriate for Hawaii.
Lava continued to flow down the world's largest active volcano Tuesday.
They're looking at the gas emissions, they're looking at the ground deformation, they're looking at the earthquake seismicity and tracking how things are changing in real time.
Beefus says at this point, it's a volcanic hazard, not a natural disaster.
The hazard is normal. It's good, right? It's a natural process, which makes our planet interesting.
Interesting, but also unpredictable. Hawaii's governor signed an emergency proclamation Tuesday to allow for resources that could be needed down the line. But Beefus says there doesn't appear to be any immediate danger, and people living there have trained for this their whole lives.
The movement underground, that I would say be the most unpredictable. Where will the fissure open up next? It'll open up probably downhill. And how far downhill would be the thing that would have people the most interested.
Eruptions can last days to years, so scientists say it's too early to predict how long this one will last. Nonetheless, from novices to experts like Beefus, it's captured our attention.
I personally hope it lasts a long time because I have tourist goals and I want to see it.
In Waco, Rissa Shaw, News 10.
And back in October, Brady Taylor sat down with Dr. Beefus for our Degrees of Science program. At that time, he had just returned from studying a volcano in Iceland. You can catch that interview on our website, kwtx.com/degrees of science. All right, coming up after the break, we take a look back on what November brought Central Texas and get a recap on hurricane season. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Weather Extra. I'm sure you noticed, but November was chilly and featured much needed rain. Meteorologist Camille Hawksworth joins us to recap what November was like here in Central Texas. Camille.
That's right, Jillian. It was cooler than what we normally see for the month of November, and the first time that's actually happened this year since February. And if you recall correctly, February is what brought us the winter storm. So in terms of November standards, we saw 17 days below where we should be for this time of year. That's more than half the month what we saw cooler than normal temperatures. We had 16 days of normal temperatures as well. Combining those things, We saw an average high of 64.1 degrees when we normally are about 68 degrees for our average high for the month of November. So we had some very strong cold fronts roll through that brought us the cooler weather, but it also brought us the wetter weather as well. We saw over 5.5 inches of rain in the month of November alone. That is close to 3 inches above what we normally see in the month. And of course, it is the wettest month we've seen since last year of August 2021. So how does the rain stack up for the month of November? Well, we saw 12 days of measurable rainfall, so less than half the month that rain fell in a short amount of time. Again, we saw over 5.5 inches of rain. It was a very wet month and we definitely needed the rain, but we still need more. Even with the above normal rainfall that we saw in the month of November, we end off still seeing 13 inches below what we need, and we definitely want to see more cold fronts come through. We'll have to see how December stacks up. We've got a couple more cold fronts on the books. Hopefully they bring us some more cooler and wetter weather.
All right, thank you, Camille. And the end of November marks the end of the Atlantic hurricane season. Meteorologist Sean Bellafiore joins us with a recap on how the season went. Sean.
The 2022 hurricane season officially came to a close on November 30th, and although it was an average season as far as number of storms, it was one of the costliest. The season starting pretty much right on time, just after June 1st with Tropical Storm Alex. We then saw 2 more storms towards the end of June, both Bonnie and Colin. But after that, there was a huge lull. No named storms for the rest of July, almost none in August entirely. Just after September 1st is when we saw Danielle form, then Earl. But the big one, the first big one of the year, was Fiona, moving through Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, making landfall as a Category 2 storm in Canada, believe it or not. And there was no break from there. After Fiona, Ian making landfall in southwest Florida as a Category 4 near Category 5 hurricane. We did see a couple of more storms in October and November, but the only other U.S. landfall after Ian was Nicole. The 2022 hurricane season is going to go down as the first year since 2014 without a preseason storm. It's also the 6th year in a row with a Category 3 landfall in the U.S. And even though it was that average season with 14 named storms, $54 billion plus in estimated damages makes it the 6th costliest season. Hurricane Fiona was the first major hurricane of the season, lashing Puerto Rico and Hispaniola with prolific rainfall and strong winds. But Fiona's power was felt all the way into Canada, making landfall as a Category 2 storm in Nova Scotia. Of course, the other major storm was Ian. Hurricane Ian slamming into southwest Florida as a Category 4 hurricane. Ian's landfall at Cayo Costa was nearly the exact same spot as 2004's Hurricane Charlie, which was also a Category 4 storm. But Ian was substantially larger, bringing 12 feet plus of storm surge, dropping over 2 feet of rain, and unfortunately killing at least 114 in Florida. The 2022 hurricane season may be finished, but cleanup and recovery from the 3 hurricane landfalls in the U.S. is ongoing. Reporting in the studio, Sean Bellafiore, KWTX News 10.
Thanks, Sean. Coming up after the break, this week's Degrees of Science with Brady Taylor. Get ready to learn more about a program that provides the public an opportunity to contribute to scientific research. Those details are straight ahead.
So, Dr. Leitner, if you could explain to us what exactly is the GLOBE program?
The GLOBE program is the Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment program. That's a long name for a program that pulls together teachers, students, citizen scientists, and researchers to help explore our local environment and understand what's happening around us and participate in an international science community. GLOBE is based on scientific protocols that are developed in collaboration with scientific researchers as well as educators to give students and informal learners a really rich educational experience that is also well tied into the scientific research and scientific methodologies.
So with the title GLOBE program, it's kind of cool that it's also a global initiative that you're doing. How many different countries are involved with helping with this?
We now have 127 countries involved in the GLOBE program. And in fact, we just had Belize join last week. It really is, science is an international endeavor, and GLOBE really embodies this spirit. And having people making measurements all across the world helps us understand how is the Earth changing, and helps give us this understanding not only of how is it changing, but why is it changing, and giving people the tools to look at their local environment.
And speaking of local environment, you've got local schools particularly here in the United States, all over the country that are involved in helping out with this, right?
Yes, there are thousands of schools here in the U.S. and thousands of schools internationally as well that participate in the program. That happens not only at a high school and middle school level, but it also even happens at an elementary school level.
Oh, and how cool is that for elementary kids to start getting that initial push into science? I'm sure they love being out and about and doing that research.
I think it's wonderful. And in fact, I even helped make some globe measurements with my son's pre-kindergarten classroom, helping make tree height measurements. And it was really great to sort of see them think about, why is a tree here? How tall is it? And how would we figure that out? Now, obviously, we gave them a very broad overview of what's happening, but even still, I think equipping students to think like a scientist and to have the tools to be able to ask questions about their environment and starting that process at a very early age is really important.
So what kind of observations are we talking about that your citizen scientists and the students would be making as part of the program?
Great. So students are able to make measurements of the air, land, soil, and waters. And we have over 40 protocols to help them make measurements like the salinity of water, looking at the phenology of trees, that is, when are they greening up, and then when are they changing colors and how does that change throughout the year, air temperature, water temperature. Again, there's a whole variety of measurements that students can make. And teachers are trained in making these measurements to help them do that effectively in the classroom from both the scientific side, and then we also give them educational resources. Citizen scientists are able to access 4 globe observations: land cover, tree height, mosquito habitat, and clouds. And through these 4 measurements, they're able to get trained on their phone on the fly to make these 4 measurements and to be able to contribute them.
So for citizen scientists that may be interested in this, tell us about your app, because that's how I came to learn about Globe, and was really interested in the cloud pictures that people could take. How can people get involved with your app?
So you can download the app from observer.globe.gov or go into wherever you get your apps from and search for NASA and Globe, and it should be able to pop up right away. And when you join the program, you're able to start making those measurements pretty quickly after that. And again, it doesn't take very long to make each individual measurement. And we walk you, and the app walks you through how to make those measurements and gives you tips along the ways. And there's a lot of visual clues as well.
For teachers, what kind of resources does the Globe program offer them to help them teach the kids and get them involved with the program?
Great. So we have a variety of training resources that are available for teachers, and then we also help connect you to partners. But additionally, we have a teacher's guide that walks you through each protocol and has a number of learning activities that help you connect the Globe protocol to various things in your classroom that you might be looking to teach about. And there is a really wide array, and there's also information for different grade levels. If teachers are interested in joining the Globe program, the way that we work with teachers in the U.S. is through partners. And so if there's a teacher interested, they can contact us at the Globe program, globe.gov/support, and then we'll be able to put them in contact with a local partner who in turn can help them develop materials and kind of go through our Globe training process.
To learn more about the Globe program, scan the QR code on your screen to watch on YouTube or go to kwtx.com/degrees of science. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's December, so you know what that means. It's officially Christmas time in Central Texas. Do you and your family like to chop down your own Christmas tree each year? Well, one popular Central Texas Christmas tree destination says the drought has been giving them problems. News 10's Alex Fulton explains how.
We planted our first trees in 1986.
The Roddy Tannenbaum farm has been spreading holiday cheer for decades.
This Christmas tree here is about 9 foot tall, and it serves as an example as the kinds of tree that this Christmas tree farm can grow. But if you take a look over here, you'll see other Christmas trees that are about 4.5 feet tall, and that's just half of the size of what they should be.
Due to the drought, the trees didn't get tall enough, so the fields for cutting are closed this year.
There were such cracks in the ground that when the water went in, it probably went way past the roots in those deep cracks.
They can survive on maybe 12 inches of rainfall, but they need about 25 to thrive.
So this year,
And do you want it netted for an extra $2?
the owners are only selling pre-cut trees shipped in from a farm in North Carolina.
A lot of families, they're wanting that experience of going out and letting their child saw down the Christmas tree. And a pre-cut Fraser doesn't seem to always replace that experience.
And this isn't the first time there's been trouble at the tree farm. In 2020, a pest called a spider mite got to hundreds of the trees. Then last year, the winter freeze hurt the growth.
Alrighty, here's the bottom part.
But the customers make it all worth it in the end.
One says, I want this tree. The other one says, I want that tree. And it's just, you just see them so full of joy.
There's probably no customer, direct customer business where the customer tends to be as happy as they are at Christmas.
And going forward,
with all the rain we've had lately, we just have positive feeling about next year.
You could say these owners are keeping spirits bright. In Meridian, Alex Fulton, News 10.
Came in and dug this.
That's all we have for you tonight on this week's Weather Extra. Get ready for a warm and muggy weather week here ahead for Central Texas. For more on your forecast, visit KWTX.com. Make sure to tune in again next Sunday for another half hour of weather and science. Have a great week and good night, everyone.